Hello and welcome to this week's Capitol Hill Updates by me, Joseph Bastian. I've been gone for a minute due to some technical difficulties, but I am now back with the jump off. This week, Congress returned from recess for another 5-week legislative session before the Memorial Day recess. This week, the House was not in session on Monday, April 20th, and on April 21st, the House met at 2 p.m. for legislative business, and votes were postponed to 6:30 p.m. On Wednesday and Thursday, the House met at 10 for legislative business, and no votes are expected in the House on Friday. This week, the House voted on HRES 320, a resolution honoring the life and achievements of Dr. John Hope Franklin. Also, they took up the Civil Rights History Project Act of 2009, the Electronic Waste Research and Development Act of 2009, the Green Energy Education Act of 2009, the Water Research and Development Initiative Act of 2009, and also a resolution providing for the acceptance of a statue to be placed in the United States Capitol honoring our president, or our former president, Ronald Reagan. In the committees this week, starting with the Senate, on Tuesday, the Senate Finance Committee held a hearing for the nomination of Governor Catherine Sebelius, and also the Foreign Relations Committee held a hearing on the U.S. diplomatic capacities in Africa. On Wednesday, the Armed Services held a hearing on nuclear environment management, stimulus funding, and the Veteran Affairs Committee had a hearing on health-related legislation. On Thursday, the Homeland Security Committee in the Senate held a hearing also on stimulus oversight. In the House, the Energy and Commerce Committee had a hearing on the Bayer Chemical Plant, which happened last year in West Virginia. And also the Joint Economic Committee had a hearing on the large financial institutions' systematic threats. On Wednesday, the Foreign Relations Committee heard from Secretary of State Hillary Clinton on the U.S. foreign policy priorities. And the Energy and Commerce Committee had a hearing on the 9/11 attacks and their compensation. On Thursday, the Appropriations Committee heard from witnesses Justice Clarence Thomas and Stephen Bear, and that was regarding the Supreme Court appropriations. In other news, the Republican National Committee, under the leadership of Michael Steele, reported $25.3 million in its first quarter fundraising, and is currently debt-free. The Democratic National Committee has yet to release its fundraising numbers for the first quarter. Also, the House is moving quickly on the climate bill legislation, which is aimed at capping carbon emissions. The bill is expected to be on the House floor before August recess. Lastly, as we celebrate Earth Day this week, please keep in mind this Native American proverb: we do not inherit this earth from our ancestors, however we borrow it from our children. Thank you very much for your time, and I look forward to seeing you at next week's Capitol Hill Updates.